Okay, are we going live? I think we're live. I think we are live. Okay, guys, bear with me. Let me get set up here, and let's see if my mic's working. This is the next problem. Let's see. Is the microphone on? Yeah, it looks like it's on. Let's see. What's this? That puts it on mute. End stream, edit. We're just getting set up here, guys. If you're joining us for the live cast of this missing Titanic submarine, I'm just getting stuff set up, and we're going to get underway soon. Let's see. Okay, this thing here. Okay, here we go. Welcome to live chat. Guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. Okay, that brought up a whole other thing. That's not what I want. Okay, we are running. You see, this is all new to me. This is tricky here. Okay, manage. All right. Let me get started in a minute. And I was running behind schedule today, so there's probably people were expecting this to be at 10 o'clock. And instead, it got late real fast. They can always watch it. Let's see if I can get this camera set up right here. That's really, I think I had it better before, and now the thing is like crooked. Ay. Okay, let's see if we can get this thing set up right. And I gotta get back from this camera a bit. This is craziness here. I'm doing this like completely on the fly. I'm just waiting a minute or two for some people to join the room or come in or whatever to the this live chat here. I should have a fancy title going while I'm waiting for the thing to get started here. And I'm also, since I'm doing this around midnight, if anyone's up and if this thing is in buried on the, I wouldn't be surprised if it's buried on YouTube, if it's even searchable, because just close this up here. Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'm going to get started doing this presentation, and then it will be available as a regular video on YouTube anyway, so this should work. What's the latest? All right. Well, right now it's coming up on midnight, and I have a bunch of stuff that I found about the sub and the search that's going on here. Nothing has come up. I'm very surprised that there's no developments in finding this thing with everything going on. A lot of people are looking for it. What that probably means is this submersible vessel, sorry about that, this thing is probably not on the surface right now, because there's a lot of ships in the area that are at the site looking on the surface for this thing. The problem is getting to this thing under the water and searching for it down by the wreck of the Titanic. This is the whole problem. The vessels that have the capability of doing this will be lucky if they can get to the site by tomorrow, which would be Wednesday. The, being that it's 900 nautical miles away from Cape Cod, where a lot of these research vessels are stationed, it's going to be tricky. And I'm sure they're on their way to the site right now. I'd mentioned that in the video that I put up yesterday when I first heard about this. Did some research, and there's a big institution in Woods Hole, Massachusetts, that would have the kind of technology and vessels to help with this kind of a search. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll give some information, and then I'll start responding to questions and comments about this sub. By the way, it's also around 400 miles from Newfoundland, up by Canada. That is where this original expedition started out. And they went over to the site, and they've been having really bad weather this year in this area where the wreckage is. So this is their first expedition that this company has done in 2023. The company that's doing this, it's called Ocean Gate, and their CEO is actually on board this very sub that is missing. I had made a little mistake yesterday, assuming that it was this billionaire Hamish Harding that was on board, that he had started this company. That's not correct. He is a renowned explorer, and I've heard that he even led an expedition to the Arctic and helped, I believe it was Buzz Aldrin, the former astronaut, get to the Arctic and explore. So this guy, he also had gone down to the Marianas Trench, one of the deepest underwater like crevices around. He actually explored that, and he went down to the bottom of the ocean there already. So this guy, he's a daredevil explorer for sure, and he has the money to do it, being a billionaire. I'm sure he's regretting it right now. This voyage, by the way, normally would take around 8 hours on a good day when everything goes right. It just takes a long time to get down to this depth. It's close to 12,000 feet underwater, so that's a couple of miles. And I guess they want to do it very carefully too, how the rate of descending, and then they have a little bit of time based on what I've been calculating. They probably stay down there looking at the wreck for about 2 hours, and then they have to start making the ascent back up to the surface. As far as other vessels helping them out to find this, here's the thing. There is a vessel the Navy has. It's one of the few vessels that can actually go down to that seafloor and start doing a search under there. They've got to wait, though. They're trying to get it to the site. It hasn't, as to what I found right now, it has not gotten to the site yet. And the one the Navy has uses a tether system. So on the news, they were saying something about this Navy submersible could be possibly flown to the site. However, if it uses a tether system, you might need to have a ship that supports, with the right equipment, a giant reel or winch to lower the tether down, or a spool to contain the tether cable. So I'm not so sure that that's correct, that they could just fly it to the site. I think it would have to be on a ship. That's my take on it. It was last used to retrieve a fighter jet in China that had crashed going underwater and was at the bottom of the ocean. And this submersible that the Navy had was able to go down there and attach a cable to the wreckage of the plane and then bring it up. They were able to then bring the wreckage up with that cable. So possibly, if they can get going on this soon, we may be able to get these guys up to the surface if we can find this thing. Now, here's the scary part, and then I'll take a look what's going on here because I can't see everything. 6 a.m. Thursday is when the oxygen is estimated to run out. So we got the time clocks ticking down, and that is, I mean, getting the thing to the site and then getting down to the wreckage. I'm very curious what I'm hoping they can get this going tomorrow morning and get some video footage of what's going on under the water here. The other problem is, as I said in my video yesterday, this submersible is so small. When you're using sonar, there's a lot of debris around the area of the Titanic that's going to show up on the sonar from the wreckage. Pieces that broke out off when the Titanic was sinking, and it's a debris field. So this is going to make it even more complicated trying to identify this sub because it's so tiny. It's not a huge, if this was a huge item like Titanic and you knew the general area, you could find it a lot quicker. But this thing is going to be a real problem. To make matters worse, the sea floor where this went down is known to be very muddy. When this thing, if it hits the seafloor, it could possibly sink into the mud, making it almost stealth as far as finding it with sonar. I'm hoping they have some kind of beacon system or a light that they have on this vessel. That would be a big help to identify it, or to try to, if they get visual video down there. Something we don't realize, down at these depths, the pictures you've seen of Titanic, it looks like it is, underwater, but you see the greenish bluish ocean, the light shining on it. Well, that light is all artificial. That's put on it by searchlights from the vessels filming it. Underneath there is complete darkness at these depths. It's very scary. So when you go to look for it, you're going to need a bunch of search lighting, as well as a submersible to film, or a video system. And you're going to have to light up the area, in other words, that you're trying to visually scan. The sonar can look without any lighting at all. That uses sound waves. But if it's sunken into the mud or it's in a debris field, that's going to be very hard to identify in any quick amount of time. Let's see what else. Oh, yeah. There's one other thing, and I'm going to take a look here. To make matters even worse, I heard at these deep depths of the ocean, there are strong ocean currents that are flowing by. And if you have a small craft like this that only has, this doesn't really have a strong propulsion system on it. It's very limited. So if they have a problem and they have to conserve power, these ocean currents could be moving this thing around as it, if it happened to sink down near the bottom, if it's not on the ocean floor, this thing could be going as if it were in a river, being transported away from the wreckage or away from where they intended it to be. All right, let's see what kind of questions I got here. I got to look on my screen here. Um, an implosion alert went off and the search is just a formality. Okay, that's a comment from Stony. And I have not heard that. I have not heard any confirmed reports of that. The only thing I heard why they think it was missing, this thing sends a ping up to the mothership as it's underwater. Now, they also said it could communicate by a text system of messages, but very limited when it's right under the ship because it's very hard to get radio signals to go through the water. Something that I didn't realize just a day or two ago, but during World War II and with other submarines, what they would do, they would surface and then they would raise their radio antennas and do their radioing, their transmissions at the surface. So apparently the radio waves do not work through the water. And they said because of this also, this thing can't use a GPS system because that uses radio waves from satellites. So this thing, it's very hard to keep in touch or know what they're doing once they get down to a certain depth. My understanding is when they say it pings the mothership, as you probably have seen in old movies with subs, they use sonar, and the sonar has an underwater speaker. So you could have a speaker on the submersible that sends a high volume ping through the water, and then you have a microphone under the mothership that's listening. So it's like this is like World War I, World War II technology. It's ping, ping every so often. And that's probably the only way they know the thing is actually operating. This is what disappeared 1 hour and 45 minutes into the journey down. The pinging stopped. Now, that could be caused by a number of factors, including just a electrical failure in the submersible. So it's not really a definitive indication that the sub imploded or a catastrophic event happened. And I have not heard that on any broadcast yet that there was some kind of a implosion alert that could be that they know about. Now, if there's no radio communication also, how would they know at the depths, an hour and 45 minutes into the descent, you would be well underwater. If you're going down 12,000 feet, I believe the whole descent takes around 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours. So you're halfway down, you're like 5 or 6,000 feet underwater. I don't see how it's possible that the signal, the radio transmission about an implosion alert would make it up to the mothership for them to actually have that information. It doesn't seem plausible if the radio transmissions don't work down that far. Okay, what do we have here? Let's see the latest here. John Matthews, I just read it had 7 redundant systems that would allow it to ascend. The most important being automatic release that would drop a weight at 12 hours. All signs point to an implosion 1.5 hours in. Okay, I heard something about that as well. And my understanding is the weights were attached to this submersible with a special adhesive that is somewhat, it's basically water soluble. And when it was in the water for a certain amount of time, the adhesive bonds would dissolve and these weights would come off. I heard that it's more like toward the end of their oxygen supply, which is 6 a.m. on Thursday, that's when the oxygen's estimated to run out. I heard the weights are supposed to come off automatically. Based on what they were saying, it would be somewhere around Wednesday night. Because when you're running this, you don't want these weights to come off unless that's like a last ditch effort. That's like an automatic retrieval. And I haven't heard confirmation, haven't heard a definitive answer about these weights. Based on what I've heard, it's speculation. And I did hear it was like within like 12 hours of the oxygen running out. So this is actually a good thing, because if the weights were expected to fall off 12 hours after, the signs are not looking good because they have not found it on the surface yet. So let's hope that these weights, worst case scenario, at the end of the day tomorrow, those weights come off and it will automatically bring the craft back. So we know let's hope they're alive in there, but at least it will provide like closure as to what went wrong, what happened to cause this problem. Even if the craft is, well, here's the problem. If the craft filled with water, I think the weights coming off, that's relying on the buoyancy of the craft being filled with air and still being watertight. Then it would float up. But unfortunately, I think if it's filled with water, if the hull was breached, it's probably not going to be floating, even when the weights come off. This thing, there was a debate we were talking about yesterday, the video I posted in the comments about the tether system. Why didn't they put this on? So that's what we really need. But I'm afraid to have a tethered cable that goes down over around 2 miles. You need a boat, a ship that has a reel or winch on it to pull the cable up. And I'm sure none of that is cheap. The weight of the cable also might impede the movement of the submersible when it's running under its battery power. So you may in fact have to have a lot more power. You might have had to make this thing a lot bigger to actually move around with this long cable attached if you're dragging a cable around. They also possibly were afraid if these guys are getting real close to the wreckage, you could somehow snag that cable on a piece of debris and you wouldn't be able to get the sub back, or like I was saying in the comments, you could put an emergency cable release possibly if you ran into that scenario. The mystery is how close these guys actually get with this thing to the actual wreckage. How much of a daredevil voyage is this? Are they going, like right onto the deck of the Titanic, or perhaps into some of the openings that have been ripped apart or disintegrated over time on the ocean floor? I heard some of the decks had a big opening in it, and they said what's going on, it's not rust, but it's actually, they call it rusticles, and it's being encapsulated with like sea bacteria, and they're pretty much dissolving the wreckage and encapsulating it with like a almost like a calcium barnacle type of crust over it. Also, when metal rusts, it expands a lot. So if you've ever seen iron work with, I have brick that had like iron supports within the brick wall. When those iron supports over the years, when they get moisture, they start expanding with rust, and it's actually, I've seen it where it actually will crack brick. It will lift tons of brick up as the rust process happens. Now, I'm not sure if the bacteria underwater, there may not be that much oxygen. I'm going to do another more comments here. Let's see what we have. Okay, maybe there was a gas leak of some kind that caused them to pass out, and the auto release of the weights will save them. I think there's a small chance for this, but it's the best case scenario right now. That's a possibility. I mean, I'm not sure what other gas they would have on board this thing other than the oxygen. But the factor, there's one thing for sure, it uses electrical power. So you definitely need batteries to run it. And unfortunately, the battery technology, which they probably are using, would be the lithium ion. And we know what happens when, based on accident sites with cars that are electric powered, if they catch on fire, the fire departments are having a really hard time. They said basically they can't put the fire out. They burn through all the water trucks that they can come up with, and they just try to keep it cool while the fire burns. Those batteries could possibly make some kind of a gas. They could release some kind of gas, I imagine, in a malfunction. Would that gas be deadly to the people on board? Possibly. Or like if in your scenario, maybe they passed out or the gas displaced some of the breathing oxygen. It's very scary, tricky business under there. I saw footage today what this thing looks like inside, and it's really, I don't even know how you go down there for 8 hours, which is what the usual voyage would take. The compartment I saw, the guy is sitting basically with his legs crossed on the floor of this vessel inside, and he's got the computer, and there looks like some kind of doorway behind him. A matter of fact, I do have a diagram of it that will show some of it, but the compartment he was in, it didn't even look big enough to house 5 people. That's the strange part. It's really tight. really tight. And this has been on the news today a lot. The whole thing is controlled by a glorified video game controller. Um, it looked to me like they just put extensions on these little joysticks that you have, and that's how you control your sub. It's like a radio control. And I saw the guy Stockton Rush talking about it uh, before he did a video well before this expedition. He was showing this submarine and he was showing the controller, and he said that the thing is Bluetooth. Um, so the thing, it's wireless. It's probably an off-the-shelf video game controller. Mine's Bluetooth as well, or it's Wi-Fi. It's Wi-Fi, but he might that his very well might be Wi-Fi. But point being, he said you could pass the controller to other people on the sub, be like, "Hey, have a go at it. Um, take the controls a little bit, see what you can do, see how you like driving it." Especially if you're one of these guys that paid $250,000 to go on to this thing. They probably would love the thrill seekers or adventurers. I shouldn't say thrill seekers, researchers. They would love to be able to maybe position the thing in order to see a view, maybe turn it a little. But the guy said that this system was really good, and he claimed, no, it's from a video game, but he claimed this is very much bulletproof. He said, "Okay, let's see what else is going on here." Um, let's see. Radio communication. James Cameron had audio communication all the way down to the Mariana Trench, which was twice as deep as Titanic. Huh. The CEO did not want the distraction of the audio, the radio communication. That's interesting. If they, I would imagine they would have a backup system that would work, though, if in an event like this. The other thing is the Mariana Trench. We don't know what they were using to go down there. If that was tethered, you would be able to do two-way communication with a wire in the tether. I'm gonna pop open this. This is not an alcoholic beverage here, even though it sounds like it. It's some. I just got this thing. It's some kind of a sparkling water, ginger, citrus twist. Just have something to drink a little bit. Pretty good. First time I tried it. Waterloo. Got it at Target. So let's see here. I found this article here about the sub, and it's pretty interesting information. This just came out this evening. Okay, experts reveal 4 major risks Titanic submersible faced before vanishing in the Atlantic. The 4 major risks that may have caused the Titanic submersible carrying 5 passengers to vanish thousands of feet below the Atlantic have been outlined by an expert. Teams from a number of countries scrambling to find the underwater vessel after communication was lost with tour operators on Sunday, about 435 miles south of St. John's, Newfoundland. Rescuers are racing against the clock to locate the 5 men inside, with submersible estimated to have just 2 days of oxygen remaining for the passengers. Teams from all over the world are joining the search effort, with the U.S. Coast Guard announcing earlier today rescuers have now expanded their search to deeper waters. One expert has now detailed what may have gone wrong with Titan, describing them as 4 major risks that could have caused a loss of communication. An expert has detailed these risks. Associate Professor Eric Fussell, Director of Shipbuilding in Australia, believes one of these may have been a power blackout on board the vessel. He wrote that the Titan runs on batteries, and a loss of power would mean loss of communications. Now, I didn't think the story was that it never had radio communications. It is unclear if power backups, in other words, uninterrupted power supplies, are on the Titan at this point in time. Okay, he says this is why submersibles have 2 independent sources of energy: electrical and another, such as compressed air or hydraulic, to power safety systems. Okay, arguably a more serious nature is a fire. Of a more serious nature would be a fire, potentially from a short circuit on board the Titan. All right, this possibly, this is what I'm talking about with these damn lithium ion batteries. And these damn things, they have them in all these electric vehicles, and you've seen there's been plenty of them that catch on fire and it burns the car down to the ground. These batteries are great in that they give you a ton more performance, enabling you essentially to power something like the submarine on a rechargeable battery, as opposed to lead acid batteries, which that's old technology, and that's what they used on World War II submarines. They used lead acid. Lead acid does make gas as well. It makes hydrogen gases when it charges. I pretty much have a hunch near 100% that this thing would have lithium technology on board. The lead acid is very heavy, those batteries, and being that this craft is small, I don't know if they have the room or the capacity to have super heavy lead acid batteries on board. But I'll tell you one thing, I do boating, and later on my channel, you're going to see I'm going to do some boat videos once I'm under pressure, trying to get my boat running for the season, getting everything set up to take it out again. But what I do is I have batteries on board the boat to power it, and they're all deep cycle lead acid. I've been seeing the latest thing is marine lithium ion batteries that you can buy for your boat. They have a lot more ampere hour capacity, and they're much lighter than the lead acids. However, I stay overnight on my boat. I sleep on it. And as much as I'd like the convenience of having all that extra electrical capacity, and not possibly having to run a gas generator, if you have enough of those batteries, you could have it quiet and just run everything off battery power. I would not put those on my boat at this point in time, even if somebody gave them to me for free. I do not trust that if I'm going to be sleeping on the boat. And if you have an electric vehicle, I would not park that thing near your house or in the garage, because if something goes wrong with that battery, you're going to have a major fire problem. Okay, let's see what comments. Let's see what's going on here. Um, oh yeah, the trench. Yup, the batteries are definitely an important issue. Definitely. Um, I hope that, I mean, if they were smart, this thing has like feet, kind of like a helicopter landing gear on the bottom of it. And if they were smart, they should have made like a rack somewhere underneath there that you could have the batteries outside of the unit where the people are inside trying to breathe. And I can't tell by the photos if they did something like that or not. It's very hard to tell. Um, but yeah, you have to, that could be a problem right there. If the batteries went bad, release some kind of gas, it might be toward the back of the vehicle. Maybe some of it leaked inside. Who knows? Um, let's see what we got here. A submarine on a tourism exploration to explore the wreckage of the Titanic. Um, oh, the short circuit. The immediate danger from this is creating toxic fumes that would poison the atmosphere and intoxicate the passengers, potentially incapacitating them unless they have access to built in breathing systems. Yeah, who knows if they were able to fit all these built like redundant systems, uh, fancy stuff like that onto such a small vessel. Another possible cause of the loss of communication is a flood on board the Titan, a risk that increases substantially in the deeper submersibles as they dive into an ocean. The professor says at 4,000 meters, it's the equivalent of more than 4,000 tons applied to one applied to an area of 1 square meter. That's the problem. You get a little leak and the ocean pressures are going to make it so that's like a power washer nozzle. It will spray into the passenger compartment. And where's that water going to go? There's not a pump system. I'm almost sure of that. There's no pump system to get anything like that out of the unit. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Okay, he warned Titan has a composite hull with inbuilt sensors that can withstand such pressure, but it requires a very accurate round shape. Professor says any out of circularity defect could result in a near instantaneous implosion at such depths. We don't know if any seismologists have detected such a phenomenon, uh, if the ship indeed suffered that fate. Now, being that this thing is so small, I don't think the implosion would be detectable because you have water all around this thing. And the seismology equipment measures ground vibration. I don't know about that one. Should some system failure cause the Titan to start to sink, systems such as safety leads can be dropped. That's what we're talking about. to gain instant lightning and raise to the surface. The final and fourth task outlined by the shipbuilding expert is entangling. The professor says strong currents can occur undersea, and submersibles avoid anything that could entangle them or block them. The wreck of the Titanic can present tricky spots if coming too close, where Titan could get trapped and struggle to free itself. However, based on the timing of this, it doesn't sound like this thing made it all the way down to the wreck site. The U.S. Coast Guard has offered a bleak update on the missing tourists, warning oxygen levels on board are reaching dangerous levels. The 5 people inside the vessel have around 40 hours of breathable air left. The Coast Guard had previously said Titan could stay underwater for up to 96 hours. This is an estimate, so we know from the data we are using, the starting point was 96 hours. We know there are around 40 hours of breathable air left. Very, very scary scenario right here. Now, let's see. As far as my notes on this, there is a small toilet on board this vessel, and it looks like people are sitting on the floor of the vessel for the journey. I'm not exactly sure. I believe the toilet is enclosed in another room or compartment is more likely the scenario. The vessel's about 22 feet long, and it's only about 9.2 feet in diameter. So my boat itself, my regular boat, is around 25 feet long and probably about 9 feet wide. So, this thing, it's not totally microscopic. I mean, there should be some room in that. It has seating for 5. That's 1 pilot and 4 crew. And the speed, it says here, about 3 knots. That's very slow speed, almost like, miles per hour. It's probably about like walking speed. Probably about like 4 or 5 miles per hour. Okay, on this boat, it says it has titanium outer hemispheres. That would be the rounded part of this vessel in the front. And there's a small porthole at the end of it. We were talking in the video I put up yesterday. They would take turns, I guess, going to this porthole, and it's kind of like a bubble. You could probably like put your face right in it and get like a fish view of the wreckage. But it looks like one person at a time. Onboard health analysis monitoring system provides early warning detection for pilot. So I guess that's if the air is bad or there's something going on. Maybe the guy driving this, the pilot, he would be alerted to that if there was some kind of a problem, giving him the option to do an emergency ascent up to the surface. It's powered by 4 electric thrusters. 2 of them are vertical and 2 of them are horizontal. The rear section is unmanned. Okay, this is the thing. This is kind of like what I was wondering about. It contains oxygen tanks and electronics. It has a 380 millimeter acrylic viewpoint. Now that must be the porthole window at the front of the vessel. Oh, no seats in the vessel, and passengers are barefoot. So this thing, even on a good day, you're sitting on the floor of this thing, and my gosh, this is some voyage. Yeah, you're sitting on there on the floor, tight quarters, and this is something that usually takes 8 hours. Can you imagine that? And I think they had a few snacks on board, but let's face it, that's not going to last you that long. They're they're trying. I heard yesterday, if this something bad like this happened, the pilot would instruct everyone to sleep until they could be rescued, like conserve oxygen and sleep. Um, Nerves of steel you would have to do something like that if you're in this situation. Unbelievable. I'm just going to take a look over here. What do we have going on here? Um, yup, it looks like our stream is pretty much um, slowed down here, and it's very late. It's around 12:30 a.m. or I don't even know what time. How late did it get? 12:40, 12:41. Um, so we're just gonna have to see what happens tomorrow, and I'll do another live stream tomorrow because these turn into a regular video anyway. So if I have the capability, it's probably better to do it this way with the live stream. Let me just see if I missed anything on the. I jotted down a bunch of stuff to keep this stuff in order. I did get some comments on the last video. A guy was wondering if a giant squid, not squid, but a whale or perhaps some kind of sea creature may have um, done something with this sub. Uh, a really far out scenario, if something like a whale or something may have perhaps, if they uh, put it in their mouth and moved the thing or tried to swim, they might be able to just go off with it. And the unfortunate thing is, if they move it far enough away, even if they don't eat it, if they just moved it and dropped it, that's going to throw off the search effort. And the crew itself, the crew themselves inside, they cannot get out of this damn thing without having an outside support crew. Uh, Very scary scenario, and this is the truth. I heard this again today, and I mentioned it last night. The hatch is bolted on from the outside, and my assumption is they do this because that makes the vessel, as strong as possible. If you have this thing securely bolted, it becomes part of the structure, whatever hatch they have, and maybe it's safer than having some kind of a system from inside that you could buckle the thing down with. There might be a structural reason why they do this. Okay, what's going on here? Let's see what the deal is. Oh yeah, giant squids. Well, that's a possibility. If sailors thought giant squids could have attacked their vessel, this thing is much smaller than your usual submarine. This thing's only a submersible. Um, who knows? This is that would be a really strange tale if they found out something involving like sea life was to blame for the disappearance of this thing. Uh, they need to find this thing, and regardless of what what happened to it, they need to find it, be able to see what's going on with this. Let's see, what's this? If they find it on the bottom, can they lower a microphone and be able to hear everyone's last words? Um, if you have a tether, since they're saying radio waves don't work underwater like this for transmissions, so you would have to have a tether, a cable with electrical wires to run the microphone. That's basically what a sonar system. They have a speaker that's underwater to transmit sonar pings, and they also have a microphone that can listen. And in World War II, they could actually listen to hear the sounds of propellers from a ship or submarine over the sonar system. They could hear that, and I believe they could even hear people talking a little bit from other submarines through the water. So I believe if they lowered the sonar microphone down, even if it wasn't right on the vessel itself, they may in fact be able to hear um, people talking through the metal hull. Would The sound waves would go through the water. Um, that's a possibility, but I think you got to be pretty close to it to hear that. Um, yeah, if they could do it, could they tether the craft and pull it up? Well, the Navy has a submersible, and the question is, can they get it out to the site in time? It better be there tomorrow. I mean, the Navy's submersible, it's capable of going down 20,000 feet, and it has a tether attached to it. They retrieved a fighter jet that had sunk to the ocean floor over by China with this submersible. They sent it down. They attached a much heavier duty cable to it, to the fighter jet, using the submersible. And the submersible had its own tether or cable going up to a support ship. And then they were able to use the heavy duty cable and pull the plane up to the surface. So that's probably what they're going to try to do as soon as they get this Navy vessel, the submersible the Navy has, out to the site. And the problem is, this wreckage is so deep. This company, Ocean Gate, they have two other submersibles, but neither one of them can go down deep enough to get to the Titanic wreckage. So they said there's very few submersibles that they can actually use at these depths to do the search and recovery. Oh yeah, I was going to mention the guys on board this thing. From what I heard, there's a father and son from one of Pakistan's wealthiest families on board. All the people on board are basically like real hardcore, like science explorers, and they're not like your usual tourists, so to speak. The guy piloting this craft, his name, I'm just going to use his first names, Paul Henry. He's French, and he's a Titanic expert. Now, this guy, Paul Henry, he has a lot of experience. He has been on 37 other dives down to Titanic, not in this little submersible craft, but using maybe better, well, I don't know if you could say better. It would be older equipment, maybe bigger equipment. And this guy, in other words, he's a seasoned veteran. He's been down. This isn't his first rodeo. He's been down there 37 times. Um, and it must have been in other subs. They said he made 37 dives down there, but no diver can go down that deep. This would be in a sub or some kind of craft. This is really, I mean, the depths are insane. This guy also, he led the recovery of 5,000 artifacts from Titanic, and he's been working on this since 1987. Now, I shouldn't even say this, but you know what I was thinking. It's almost like I don't even know if I should even say it, but the you've seen like those movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark, um, different things like artifact site where if you take stuff from the site, it's considered like bad luck, and there's some very eerie similarities uh, that I'm seeing. Like, okay, this guy's taking all these artifacts from the site. Now he might be down at the site in this craft. Who knows what the fate is of these explorers. And the other thing I noticed, they had named this intentionally, but the submersible craft is named Titan. Um, the wreck they're going to, Titanic. It's the same name with an IC at the end. I mean, that's pretty crazy right there. I mean, now the other people on board, and I give this guy credit. I mistakenly said in my video yesterday, I was under the impression that Hamish Harding was somehow in charge of the company that's running these tours. That part was not correct. Um, Somebody mentioned that in the comment, and what happened is Hamish Harding is on board. He is a billionaire from England and a hardcore adventurer, but the company called Ocean Gate that runs these tours in this sub, they have a CEO of the company by the name of Stockton Rush. He is on board. He's one of the people on board. And I give this guy credit because if you're running a company to do tourism to the Titanic wreck, you're doing these expeditions with this equipment that is like prototype basically. Um, I mean, you can't argue that the guy is not uh, a brave man, and he's putting his, what do you say? He's putting his money where his mouth is. He's backing up his company or putting his mouth where his money is, going down on the actual craft that his company is running. Um, this is only the third voyage made by Ocean Gate to the Titanic. They started doing this in 2021. So it's not like this is routine. It's not like this craft has been down there a ton of times. This is something that, you see, in my opinion, it's very experimental. Um, Yesterday, people were saying that the craft has a lot of credibility to it because it was designed by NASA. I don't know how much truth there is to that. Like as far as like the systems go, like that video game controller to raise and lower the craft and then navigate it around. I don't know if that's really, how much of this craft is designed by NASA. Let me see what other comments we have here. There's more stuff going on here. If they find it on the bottom, can they lower a microphone? Okay, we did that. If they could do that, they could tether to the craft, pull it up. That's what we're hoping that Navy craft can do. Oh yeah, they should have stopped at 37. People have died under mysterious circumstances that took relics from Egyptian pyramids as well. Maybe they found the pearl necklace, and activated a curse. Supposedly they had multiple controllers for redundancy. I did hear that. I heard that from Stockton himself when he was showing the controller system and talking about how it's wireless. He said, just in case if one of these controllers gets broken or something happens, he says, we have more of them on board and we could just simply use another one. Stockton Rush is the guy's name. And the company itself is out of Washington State in the United States, USA. So let's see. And I believe he's been at it. The company's been around since around 2008. So they worked on this a long time, trying to be able to do this type of voyage. It's a private company, by the way. It's not anything that's traded on the stock exchange. Yeah, I'm telling you that's right out of Indiana Jones with that. You take the stuff from the site and then something bad happens. I think though the biggest problem is, okay, if the US Navy uses a tether system on their submersible that's going down so damn deep, that's a big clue right there that this one they're using for tourists should have in fact had that tether system. So the oxygen, the air's going to run out around 6 a.m. Thursday. We got to see tomorrow morning what happens if they can get this Navy equipment to the site. They said just this evening that they started to search deeper waters. They didn't say at the bottom though. They just said they've now expanded their search to deeper waters. We got to look get all the way down to the bottom and start exploring that, because if the thing is not floating on the surface, most likely it's sitting on the bottom of the sea, the bottom floor, the sea floor. I don't think it would just be floating off the seafloor at a depth in between. I'm not sure how likely that is. All right. So yeah, it's getting pretty late now. It's coming up on 1 a.m. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap the feed up for tonight. um, and keep an eye on what's going on tomorrow. And then I'll double back for another live stream. Maybe I'll try to do it a little earlier tomorrow evening and see if there will reconvene then. And if you just check my channel, what I'm going to try to do is put the notification of the live stream up way in advance. I got to see when I'm able to do this, and I'll try to get it up there. Uh, thanks. Good deal. Um, I'll try to give you much more notice tomorrow for the live stream. So just check the channel, and I believe they'll put a notification up announcing when we're going to do the live stream tomorrow. Um, so that's it for tonight. It's almost time for the Coast to Coast broadcast to come on AM. I wonder if they have anything on it. So yeah, have a good night or a good day, depending if you're watching this replay in the morning. And we'll look for the live stream tomorrow. All right, I'm signing off. This is New York Dan, over and out.